I'm here with my client, Madel, and we're just going to be talking about kind of your experience with the process of hypnotherapy and coaching. So, why don't you start by just kind of telling us, what made you decide to schedule your sessions?
Yeah, one of my besties actually did one of your programs, and she wouldn't tell me like any details or anything about her experience, but I started noticing that she um in the work that she was doing with you was really helping her. And so I became curious, and when I saw that you were taking consultations, you were taking clients, I said, let me talk to her and see if this would be something that could work for me. At the time, I was like really trying to prioritize my healing, and I was interested in being more intentional about my healing and being more intentional about how I um, was trying to heal certain parts of my life and areas that I, never really took the time to heal. And so I wasn't sure if hypnotherapy was something that was going to be for me, or I didn't know anything about hypnotherapy. I didn't Google anything before, anything like that. And so I really came to you with an open mind and open heart to really try to see, is this something that could work for me, or if it could be um, a good thing for me, but specifically with what I was dealing with at the time. So that's sort of what led me to you as my friend, and then obviously having a conversation with you. And then after you and I spoke, I thought, well, maybe, I mean, I think that our initial conversation was the spark to really understanding that this could allow me to go deeper into my own healing in a way that I don't think that I would have been able to with just one method, right, of healing. So I was like really excited that after you and I spoke, that this could be a possibility for me to do intentional work, but on a deeper level.
Yeah, amazing. And if you're comfortable, I wanted to ask you because your first conversation, our first conversation together, you were pretty nervous about starting the work. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Like, what fears did you have around this process or um, doing hypnosis?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it was fear around like the actual process. I still like, even after you and I spoke, you talked a little bit about hypnotherapy and what that process looks like. Um, and I didn't feel uncomfortable or anything. Like, I actually felt really really intrigued. Um, Part of me was like, well, how does this even work? Like, I still had all those questions, but prior to our first session together. But yeah, what I think for me, what I feared was um, what I actually had to do, um, like, so I guess I can give you a bit of a background. So I was fixated on this person that I dated years ago. And this relationship really just was something that I held on to for so many years. And so I had this fear of letting go of that person. And I think that's where a lot of the fear and just nervousness stemmed from. Like when you and I were talking, you were very reassuring, and you were like, once you let go of this person, you're able to live in the present more, and just reaffirming and reassuring, sort of like a lot of the fears that I had. But I think a lot of it was like, oh my gosh, I have to let go of this person. I don't know if I was like completely ready for it. I didn't even know if I was 100% ready for it, but I knew deep down it's something that I needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, change is so scary, right? Like even when we want it, change is so scary. And it can
Hmm.
be it's especially scary because we don't always know like what's on the other side of not having this issue anymore.
Hmm.
Is it possible? Like, am I actually going to feel better? Am I going to feel different in a way that I don't want to? And that type of like internal dialogue or internal nervousness or internal fear is really, really common, I think. Um, how did you feel? Do you remember how you felt after our first session?
Um, wow, it seems like such a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't even know I don't even know if I recognize that version of myself anymore, if I'm honest. I will say that if I remember correctly, the after our first session, um, I felt very, very light, uh, at peace. I mean, obviously, we didn't do like the heavy work then, but I just felt like even just the first session, that experience for me, it was just super. It was magical. So I just felt very like, okay, this is definitely something new that I've never tried before. But I definitely left our first session feeling really good. I mean, hopeful, and then just kind of there's still lingering questions, but I remember just feeling like, okay, this is actually really cool. Like I'm actually um, starting to feel different. Like the molecules in my body feel better. Even just after one session.
Yeah, amazing. I asked that because people, especially like when you've never had hypnotherapy before, you're always like curious about what the process is or what you're gonna feel like. Like, am I gonna lose control? Am I not gonna be aware what's happening? And so I like to do this really foundational session, right? Where I just say like you only have to let go. That's it. You just have to relax and let go. In this
Hmm.
session, you don't have to worry about anything else. And even with that session, people tend to tell me exactly what you just said. Like they feel so much lighter, they feel clearer, sometimes they feel more connected to themselves already. They're able to release stress, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really, really good. When you think about that past version of you, it does feel like it was so long ago. It's only 8 weeks ago that we started. Um, when you think about that past version of you, what had you tried before hypnotherapy that to release the past that wasn't really maybe not as helpful or didn't get you where you wanted to be?
Yeah. I tried a couple years ago. I tried therapy, just regular therapy. That wasn't helpful because, well, it was helpful in that moment, but it wasn't helpful because still three years later, I was still fixated on this person. I was still daydreaming about this past relationship with this one individual. So it was just like I think that was more like a band-aid, putting a band-aid over the wound and the pain and the hurt that I was experiencing. And I didn't really have I didn't have a connection with my therapist, if I'm completely honest with you. So um, that was one thing that I tried. And then even just before I uh, did hypnotherapy with you, I had was also searching for a therapist, and I think that you posted a video about what's the difference, or just sort of kind of that they both complement each other in a way. So I ended up still getting a therapist and then continuing the sessions with you because I thought maybe they offered different levels of healing. And so yeah, so prior to that, I didn't really try anything that actually worked, or I wasn't intentional. I think deep down, like I wanted to let go of this person. I maybe didn't know how. I would write. I mean, I journal a lot, and I would just try to convince myself, like, okay, let go of her, mother. Like, you don't, just let her go. But I don't think it was definitely, it didn't work. So it's not that I didn't want. I mean, subconsciously, maybe I didn't want to, which is why I didn't really put the effort in. It wasn't until like you and I started working together.
Yeah, girl, you were ready. You were so ready. It was time, and you did amazing. How would you
Yeah.
describe just like the whole experience over the last 8 weeks of kind of moving through that process and receiving kind of this weekly hypnotherapy session and all the work you did because you put in work, all the work you did to support yourself in moving through this.
You know, at the while I was in it, um, with like any healing work, there's ebbs and flows. There were days where I just felt so tired because it was a lot of emotional work. Um, the session that we worked on, where I released her, I just remember bawling after you and I got off our session, And even just through that weekend, the next couple of days, it was just a very heavy experience. And but I think that what got me through, I mean, other than my own motivation and my own will, the homework assignments the tools that you provided were really key. There were moments where I would fall back into the same pattern, and I just would remember, oh no, like I can do this in this situation, and then snap back and get back into the present moment. And those were really helpful. But for me, it was just the whole process was really, I mean, it was a lot of work, and there were heavy times, but also there were just very beautiful moments. There were moments where I felt like I could feel myself healed. I didn't just, like what does that feel like, right? I can't describe it to you, but I felt very much at peace, very much of like, had I not gone through this work, I don't think I would have been able to let go of this person. I don't think that I would have been able to heal completely from that relationship in a way that I can say, okay, look, I don't have to fear this person not being in my life. I mean, this person hasn't been in my life for 3+ years, right? But she was living in my mind, in my heart, in this very I kept her alive for all these years. And so I think for me, there was moments where I felt very much of like, bittersweetness and just peace that, I was able to move forward and that it was an ongoing process. For me, that was what my experience was like. There were, ebbs and flows. There was moments I felt really joyous and I was great, and there was days that I was feeling very like heavy or emotional. But I think through it all, your tools that you provided were very helpful, um, for me at least, and in those moments where I would snap back into old patterns. So it was a it was like a beautiful math sort of process for me.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that because healing is not linear. Like we can't just snap our fingers and then be in this new space, and our minds just never want to like go backwards and follow their old patterns again. And that's why having those tools is so important, and having the like consistent support is so important because as you're doing that, you have to consciously make new decisions and support
Mhm.
yourself and love yourself and show up for yourself and guide yourself through. And you did so well. You just did amazing. There's a lot to celebrate there. How do you feel now that we're at the end, versus how you felt during and in the beginning?
Um, I'm still kind of I think, because we just wrapped up, right? So I think part of me is still trying to process what this really meant, what the last 8 weeks meant for this version of who I am now. So there's a lot of processing, there's a lot of um just like very big emotional like moments for me because I think that I mean, I don't know if your other clients say this, but you were just so significant in the last 2 months for me that it's been hard for me to like get used to like, okay, I'm not gonna see Violetta this week. I haven't thought about that, but yeah, I think for me now that we wrapped up, now I'm just kind of processing it all, and then um I'd be curious to see how I am when it's time for me to like start dating again, right? Or when I start like putting myself out there, meeting folks, I'd be curious to see sort of how I react or what this new mental model is going to look like when I'm approaching relationships with this new sort of insight, with this new self love that I developed, that I was able to cultivate with the work that you and I did. But I will say that I do feel like I haven't, at least snapping back to like the old patterns are very, very, very minimal. Um, I'm usually very aware when that happens. Like if I start thinking about her or start daydreaming, I snap back. I'll say, okay, why am I thinking about this? Like what emotions are coming up? So that, at least my level of self-awareness has really gone up, which is really cool, because I was already a self-aware individual, but I think just now it's like a whole new level, which just trips me out sometimes too. I mean, it's just yeah, there's just like, growth is such an interesting thing, but for me, yeah, now I just feel more at peace, definitely. Still sometimes I think like I never thought that this would have happened, or that I would have been able to let go of this person, because she was such a heavy, like, um she had such a heavy presence in my life, all these years. So um yeah, I'm in a better place. And I think so one of the things that we wanted to work on too was being in the moment, right? Being in the present. I'm definitely more of an in a moment person. And I think that that's definitely something that I've noticed, has been pretty consistent, at least when you and I started working together. Even till now, I'm pretty consistent.
I would agree. I would agree with everything you said. And I think that you like took everything I gave you and you just put it into action. And this is why it's so important to go through these types of like growth periods, because we can't be growing 24/7, right? We have little periods, then we need a break, little periods, and we need a break. And I always call this like after period when we're done with our hypnosis program. I call it like the integration period. It's the moment where now you're set free and you're, you know, absorbing or like allowing things to sink in. Everything you've worked on for 2 months is sinking in. I have no doubt that when you go and start dating again, that it's going to feel different. But also that you're bringing in this new level of you that wasn't there before. Like you just like climbed up, and your relationships are going to reflect that. There's no way that they can't. You can't like slip and slide back. Um, and if you did, you would catch yourself, and that's the difference.
Mhm.
That's the difference that you wouldn't have had before. So I'm really excited for that.
I'm
I'm so
nervous still,
excited.
but
No,
I'm not ready. I'm not ready, but
yeah, but when you are ready, it's going to be really good, and you're going to keep learning and growing, and you are going to realize like, oh, holy shit, past me would have maybe responded to this differently, and now I'm choosing this way, and it's going to feel really
Mm.
good. So I'm excited for that. What would you say to people who maybe like they've never tried hypnotherapy before? They don't really know what it entails, and they have that nervousness that you had in the beginning of like change and like actually now I'm actually gonna let go of the past.
Mhm.
What would you say to people that are maybe in that kind of space?
Go for it. Take that leap. Take a chance on yourself. I mean, one of the things that really resonated for me when you and I had our initial consultation, I wasn't sure if this was actually the right thing for me to do, or like going that route, because it wasn't so. I mean, it was just like a different situation for me where I it's a person, right, or it's like a past relationship, and I wasn't sure, but um I think for me, looking back in the last 8 weeks, I truly feel like I've transformed, significantly. And with if I hadn't gone through the 8 weeks with you, I think I mean, I 99% sure would have been still stuck in this old relationship, and this old version of me. So I would say for anyone that's curious or nervous, um, it's it was just such a beautiful experience. Like I think that if you care about yourself in a way that you want to transform, want to have radical self-love, if you want to sort of grow into this new version of yourself, and just kind of level up, take a chance. Like I cannot stop raving about the work, like about you, Giulietta, and just sort of like the change in the growth that I was able to experience because of your help. So I would just advise, if someone's kind of like on, like not sure, just take a chance, take a leap. Like, you're not gonna regret it. This is by far one of the most amazing experiences that I've had for my own growth and my own spiritual well-being and just well-being and emotional and mental well-being, that I think that I wouldn't have been able to accomplish it had it not been for hypnotherapy and your work. And just the fact that you're just like super supportive, like you're there, you've been there, especially when there's moments that I just was going through a lot. Just the fact that I can send you a message, or the fact that you really do love the work that you're doing, is just, yeah, it, no, 100%, no regrets, 100% will do it again. I might, I don't know. I was like waiting for like something to happen. I'm like, oh, I gotta hit up Yoletta so I can go again.
You're like, actually,
When she
tomorrow
has
I'll
to come
be
back to you.
scheduling another. Yeah. Thank you so
Actually,
much.
something came up. No.
what do you think was the most important thing that you got out of this and that you accomplished through this work?
Mm. I'm free. I feel so free. I feel liberated from this person. You used a very beautiful quote when you and I spoke. That just till this day, I it was such a beautiful analogy. I mean, it was kind of like an oxymoron because it's like not a beautiful analogy, but it is in the context. But you framed it like when I told you my situation. You were like, oh, you're gonna take her off of life support. And it was true. Like, I kept this person on life support for many years. And finally taking her off was, feel so free. For me, that is the biggest thing that I'm walking away from, is just the fact that I can now move on and just be my own uh self-love, like be my own, like love of my life. I I also feel like on top of that, to add to that, that gift that you've given me, or the hypnotherapy has given me, is also just this new version of myself. Like, I mean, I was already cool, like, to begin with, before you and I started working together, but now it's like I'm like more cool, more amazing, and it's I didn't really process or even fathom like how beautiful this radical self-love is like in this time frame, like in this phase of my life. Like, I've done it before. I've done self-love work before, but it hits different this time around. And so I think that those are the two biggest gifts that I walk away, is that liberation, that freedom, and then just this new version of myself. Um, it's like, it's just you know I it's great. I mean, I'm just like, I'm more in love with myself than I was before, which is cool.
I love this so much. And yeah, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your experience. And you're definitely not alone in having this experience. Even the reason why I was able to tell you, like, oh, you're keeping this person on life support, is because I used to keep people on life support. And someone once said that to me, and we just pass it on as we heal, all the amazing work. So your like growth, your self-love is literally going to ripple out to everyone. And that's why I'm telling you, I have no doubt about your future and your future relationships, because everything that you've done and everything that you've accomplished is just going to ripple out to everyone. So celebrate yourself. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. That's it. That's the end. Um, but no, I mean what I say. Thank
How
you
was that?
so much.
Was that good?
It was great.
Shout
No.
out to my fans. Hit me up.
That's